Rise, renew, reconnect. Welcome to From the Ashes, a podcast where every episode ignites hope and healing. I'm your host, Valerie Huang-Beck, and I'm on a mission to help you embrace your unique potential and become the vibrant visionary you knew you were meant to be.
And the fire in the darkest night, the phoenix burns. It's ready for flight. Shadows may come, try to tear you apart, but you're the...
Hello, everyone. I am here with my friend Akary, and we are going to be talking human design today.
Yes, we are. You know, one of my favorite things about this is that we're actually in the same city.
Yeah.
How rare is that to be in the same place at the same time and we're not virtual or we're not somewhere else?
Yeah, and also it's a beautiful day today, right?
71 degrees. Gosh.
Yeah, we're by the water, the sky is blue.
I know, it's
So-
beautiful. So let's start talking human design, because my biggest thing about talking to you about it is your chart is so defined. There's so much definition there that it makes so much sense why you had such a hard time, or why you have this challenge about really diving into astrology and esoteric things, you know?
Which is very interesting since I chose holistic medicine. So we are going to get into that. We're going to dive a little bit deep into my life today. But first, because I'm sure there are a lot of you out there who actually have never heard of human design, and we don't know Akary very well either. So we want to get to know her. So let's start by, I would say, defining what human design is in a very, very brief nutshell, and then tell us how you got into it.
Okay, so human design is a beautiful way of understanding who you are, because it has 5 different systems that come together. So you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and you put it all together, and it creates more than what people think is a personality test.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you things about yourself, it validates things about yourself, and it uses your, obviously, like astrology, because you need your birth date, birth time, and location. So there's Eastern and Western astrology. You have a lot of beautiful pieces of the chakra system, which is what you're probably most familiar with. And then quantum physics to make it more complicated, the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and the I Ching, which is the Chinese Book of Wisdom.
Okay.
And so grabbing little bits and pieces of this creates this big system. And obviously, when you look at the chart, it's just so much information that you cannot unravel. So it takes someone to help you go into it a little bit. And I got into human design the first time. It was 2013. I was in New York City with a girlfriend of mine, also a projector. I have a lot of projector people. And she told me that I was a generator, that I was a slave to the world, here to just work, work, work. And I thought, oh, like that just doesn't sound sexy. And I completely put human design out of my life. I was like, that's it. And about 2018, 2019, I joined a group of women, and we got so into it. We got so into it that I started to do more and more work with them. And I was doing breath work at the time, and breath work is part of what we use to release some of these beliefs that we come through that don't even belong to us and keep us stuck. And they interviewed me for a human design podcast, and it just took off from there. I had a lot of women coming to me for breath work, but not knowing what their design was. And as I started working with them, I started finding layers and layers of trauma. And so human design actually found me, sucked me in, and all I wanted to do is learn how to unravel it to help people change.
What was your background before human design?
Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe it. I was international banking. So I worked for Lloyd's, which the piece that I worked at from was the Isle of Man, doing offshore banking.
Okay.
So very corporate,
Yeah.
a lot of travel, a lot of meetings, and I never knew that I would end up here.
Okay.
But when you look at my human design, you can see why I'm here.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? Was there any kind of like breakdown from that? Or like how did you transition from banking to human design?
The transition was one of those things that wasn't easy. It was a really rude awakening. I think 2012 was a really big shift in energy here in the cosmos. And I would not, when I heard about it, I would thought, well, whatever, the world's going to end again. And didn't believe it, but my whole life took a big turnaround. My corporate office closed in downtown LA, and the option was to move to London or not have a job and stay here. And so I chose to stay here and not have a job. But then my body started to come across all of the different trauma, all of the different stress that I had not, paid attention to. So there was so much distraction in my life that I did not pay attention at all, did not pay attention at all to myself. And
Okay.
so human design came as I started to work on my stress, on my body, and on my soul.
And change your life.
And it changed my life. Yes, it did.
Oh, we have a 1-3 emotional projector
Oh, wow.
audience.
Okay. I love that. I love that. So I'm a 1-3 sacral generator. So, and one of the things about human design that is so complex is that there's a design piece, right? And then there's a personality piece. And for me, I am a 1-3 splenic projector by design. So I love projectors.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
There's so much to unpack there. If you know your type and all of that, feel free to put it in the chat. We're all curious here to
Yes,
see who
we
we have.
are.
Yeah. Let's go into some of the more basic, like the types and all of that, because I'm sure that people are curious about what it is, what it means for them.
Yeah, yeah. So there's only 5 types, right? Like, okay, I can only deal with 5. So we have the manifestors who are 9% of the population. They are here to initiate, they're here to start things. Then we have the generators like myself. We are about 38% of the population, and we're here to create, to build, and yes, to work. The caveat here is that we're here to do the work that we love so that we don't experience burnout.
Mm.
Then we have the manifesting generator, and that is the only hybrid amongst the system. So a little bit of that manifestor, a little bit of that generator, and they are about 35% of the population.
Okay.
Then we have you projectors, and the projectors are about 23% of the population and growing, here to lead, to guide, very connected to the earth, and you just know things. Look, we have a manifesting generator, 2-4, and love that.
Okay.
And then after that, we have reflectors, and reflectors are really interesting because they're only 1% of the population.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so it's really rare. There are unicorns when you find a reflector. And a reflector, when you look at the chart, they have nothing colored in. No, there's no definition. So they're very in tune with the lunar cycles
Okay.
and they feel everything. So in my mind, I look at them as quality control. Like when something isn't working, they are the ones to point it out because they can see it and they can feel it. And so there's not that many, which is really sad. They
Have
need
you
to
met
be,
any?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm a magnet for a lot of different people. But what I loved about the reflector is that they can reflect things that are not working in our community, that are not working in a certain place. So for them, it's important to be in the right environment and with the right people as well. I mean, it's for all of us, but for them especially because they're so sensitive.
Okay.
And projectors also need to be very aware of who they're around because they project the energy of the group.
All right. Really, really interesting stuff. So, where should I start? Where should I start with all of this? Well, what are the major challenges for each type? I'm curious about that.
There's a lot of challenges for all of us,
Okay.
right? Because we live on a planet that's what we're here to do. We're here to overcome challenges. One of the main challenges for all of the types is the conditioning that we all have.
Mm.
So we get conditioned by our parents, right? And so imagine you as a projector being raised by two manifested generators who are always in the hustle, a lot of busy energy. Then you start to question your own energy. Or because you don't have the energy to keep up with your parents, sometimes they will unfortunately call you lazy. And now you're living in this world thinking that you're lazy where you're not. You're just not built the same.
Okay.
So I think a lot of the difficulties that each type confronts has a lot to do with their surrounding.
Okay. So that brings me, because I wrote a couple of questions for today about like, there's a lot of language in the report that I read on authentic self and activated potential, which is
Mm.
language that I use a lot, not even knowing that much about human design, but it's actually part of my system as well. And I feel like those are really, really key things to pay attention to in your life, is like, when are you being authentic, and like how to activate potential. Why is it so important, do you think, for people to access those?
Because when you are not in your authentic space where you cannot accept the things that you enjoy and that bring you happiness, you get burnt out. And I don't know if you've ever experienced burnout, but it's not fun.
No.
And you remain in these loops, these constant loops where you don't get to become activated, right? To activate what makes you happy. And it's a ripple effect when someone finds joy in what they do and how that ripple effect takes place. So if you think about a generator, let's just say a generator, because we're built here to work, like we are the worker bees. And every day they're going to work doing the same thing that they hate, and they're so frustrated. Instead of bringing joy into the world, you're bringing more frustration. You're
Mm,
bringing what I call the hot potato, right? And
yeah.
you're driving around, you're walking around with this hot potato and just passing that hot potato around. That's the ripple effect of being unhappy.
So it's kind of like spreading toxicity?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure. And you're not even aware of it, right? There's no awareness. But when you are in your best, and I can speak for myself, this is the work that I love. And I get so inspired to help people find their joy and help them take those baby steps out of that so that they can feel their authentic self and love themselves for that.
Yeah, that is really powerful. Yeah, I ask myself this question very often, because I'm like, some people seem really content just kind of like doing the thing and not thinking about it, and not being connected to authentic self. And it always makes me question, like, am I doing the right thing by trying to guide people? But
Yeah, well, it all works until it doesn't.
mm, mm,
Right? It all works
yeah.
until it doesn't. We all drink the same Kool-Aid, right? We're all indoctrinated by the elementary schools, by all of these different things. Our parents, the fear, right? So we all sometimes are working from a place of fear where we're afraid of doing the thing that we really like, and it keeps us playing small. So there's a question here.
Yes. How would you separate academic achievements versus mastering systems for projectors?
Ooh, that's a great one.
Mm,
You know, as a projector, you're going to know things. You're going to know things that nobody else knows. Projectors are very powerful. And so when we're talking about academic achievements, is that part of the ego? Is that part of what you need to have in order to validate your worth? So that's a big question. Mastering systems is what you naturally do. You're here to master all of these systems. You're here to you just move through these systems so well, and you guide people through them and you lead people through them. So I think that is a very personal question as far as how you feel about the academic achievements that we have a lot of pressure to do this, right? Or if you're okay with mastering systems that are going to get you to that same place.
huh. Something to think about. Yeah.
A lot to think about
Yeah.
because it's either the conditioned way, right? We're talking about conditioning. We're conditioned to believe that our worth and our value come from these academic achievements, which I've had to work my way through as well. Because when I was mastering human design, I felt like I was getting a master's degree, and at the same time, I thought, well, do I really need to go back and get a master's degree from an educational space to have validity in this world? And my sacral response was, like,
Uh,
I do not want to go back. I'm happy having life experience because that speaks a lot more than what I'm learning from a book.
yeah, I could really relate to that too. I have a master's degree and I regret it. And I mean, I just spent so many years trying to validate myself, through certifications. After my master's, I didn't stop. That's how I got like my certificate in Ayurveda too. I not just one, and then I got my like certificate in massage therapy, and eventually it did drive me a little bit nuts. And I realized what I was doing to myself, and that was a lot of the ego stuff of like I'm not enough, I'm not
Oh, yeah.
worthy.
Yeah.
And now that I'm learning how to do business and entrepreneurship, I realize like I don't need the outside because it's not the external validation that's going to make me successful or fulfilled. It's actually the learning of the system and mastering that, and not the someone saying that you're mastering it that's going to actually bring me the result.
Yeah, and it's really giving yourself permission slips to do things different. And I think it takes a lot of courage to do things different because we're conditioned to have to do A, B, C, D, and we all want that, you know, house with the picket fence and the two dogs and the two kids, and it's not for everyone. I know it was not for me, and I carried a lot of shame for it because my parents were so determined that I needed to be married and have kids at a certain age, which just, it was just not for me.
Yeah. Oh, and if you are listening in and you're curious about your type and your report, there's a basic one that you can get on Akary's website.
Yeah.
So what is your URL for that?
It's UHKARE, Akary.com. You can put your information there, and right there and then you'll get a 12-page free general report. And if you're curious and want to dive deeper into it, there's a personalized report. There's some audio reports that I just added on there as well. But I am going to have a special URL for you, for all of you guys, to get a special on your audio report and your 60 plus page of just you stuff.
Yeah, that which is super juicy. So let's get into that, shall we? With
Sure.
the detailed report. So Akary has agreed to break down some of the stuff that she's found for me. So I am a 6'3" projector, and she's identified some very unique aspects of my chart here.
Yeah, the deeper you go into this, there's just I feel like there's layers and layers upon layers of this. So it's like the never-ending rabbit hole of learning that you get to do. But Valerie is a very defined projector, which is very rare. And you're also what we call triple split, which means that you need people who need people. And the beautiful thing about this is the way you connect with others. And you can really see that as you continue to do this work and continue to go live and continue to do videos for us. And you show up for the collective, which you have so much of that collective energy. One of the very fascinating things about this woman is that, yes, she is a 6'3", the 6 being a 3-stage profile number. So Valerie probably drove her parents nuts because she was just ready to go, on fire. And with a defined heart, you knew where you wanted to go. That profile 3, so curious, you were probably doing tap, ballet, piano, and all of this stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I was doing like gymnastics and dance and flute. Yeah, and actually it got even more crazy after I left the house. So yeah,
So it's so
yeah,
interesting that just by looking at your chart, I can already tell how much energy
yeah.
you brought into your life and your parents trying to keep up with you.
Yeah, and there's this part about this that was like I was kind of crazy up until I was 30. And I've done I've actually even had different careers, and my parents just didn't think I wanted to settle down. They were very, very worried.
Yeah.
They might still be worried.
We could
Yeah.
invite them.
Yeah. So, but I just had so many different interests, and it was like I felt pulled very strongly to pursue what I did, and it wasn't rational. Some of it was like trying to achieve, but at the same time, some of it was just pure curiosity. Like getting into hip hop dance was pure curiosity.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure. But look how fascinating all of these different projects have been. They're all very different. And it's just you trying to find you. And the interesting thing about a line 3 profile is that they call it like trial and error, right? You're just trying to see as many different things as possible. So imagine now that 6 works in 3 stages. So the first 30 years, that profile line 6, which is here to become a role model, acts like a line 3. So now you have line 3 and line 3. Like double the whammy of really trying to do a million things.
Yeah, that's my life, or that was my life. Then, so that brings me to that second stage, which has been really, really frustrating for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says basically that I'm supposed to integrate and rest before I actually step into my authority,
Well, there's a lot
right?
of conundrums in the chart, right? The
Okay.
life is a conundrum. So, yes, you are here to start to heal and observe and look at the things that did not work in those first 30 years. So, you get to do a little bit of that introspection, but you still have that other line 3 that's still out there trying new things. So, I think it's a and, right? Not like the end. It's more like, and I can rest and I can continue to be curious about what's out there.
Yeah. There was the big part about resting too was like, I get it because by the end of that first, I guess, third of life, I was severely burnt out
Yeah.
to the point where I think it's been 10 years for certain aspects of myself that are still healing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the part that's exactly why you're going what we call on the roof is to observe what worked, observe what didn't work. And you're gaining a lot of wisdom from that. So when we are very book oriented, we're getting knowledge. That's not wisdom. You have so much wisdom to share. And from your experiences, that's really what is going to happen. That third phase will start coming around 48, 50, and coming off the roof is really here to teach you that your worth isn't based on what you accomplish,
Mm.
but on being who you are, who you've become. And so you get to walk the talk.
Yeah.
And instead of like what you do now is hold people's hand and walk them through the process. Now you get to tell them, yeah, there's a rope over by the river by that rock. Don't miss it. But you don't feel that need to be pulling people through the process any longer.
Hmm. Yeah.
So at that third stage of that line 6, it's almost like that midlife crisis, I guess, where you kind of just start to settle into yourself, and it just shows up very different for line 6s. And you realize that you were born with your hair on fire just to know that you have nothing to prove.
Ah. So when I first heard that, and what still goes through my mind is like, what do I do until I hit that point? Right? Because sometimes it feels like I don't have the power to elevate my life now almost. It's almost like I gotta wait. And also because of that invitation thing.
Yeah, the invitation for projectors can be a little confusing. I teach projectors to learn to invite themselves by the power of words. So projectors see through things so well. And if you've ever been questioned by a projector, sometimes it goes like really deep and sometimes I'm not ready for it.
Uh
And so
yeah.
what ends up happening is that rejection, like, ugh, get out of my space.
Yeah.
So what I teach you is to invite yourself and doing it very, with a lot of mindfulness. So asking, can I share something with you? Saying something like, I noticed, do you have the bandwidth? Right? And since the majority of the population is generators, we respond to yes or no questions because if you ask us a lot of different things, we get overwhelmed and we shut down.
Uh
So the projector is great at receiving open-ended questions and you can go really deep, but for us it is so overwhelming. And so if you say, hey, do you have the bandwidth to hear me out? I could say, I not right now. And then you can say, okay, how about in an hour? And fair enough. And I could say, well, try me in an hour.
yeah.
Right. And so you're asking that generator type for permission in a way that doesn't feel aggressive.
Yeah.
And we can receive it. And so that is a life changer for you as you're inviting yourself into places that you're very curious about because you're not doing it with the intention of seeing through someone, but you do have a lot of things to share and sometimes it's important for you just to be wise about how you invite yourself. That's the wisdom.
Yeah. And I'm resonating with this a lot because even with some of the people that I work with directly, sometimes I say it too directly and I do feel their energy just like, yeah, or they try to fight me.
Yes. Yeah, and so the invitation, I think in general, right? It's good manners for
Yeah.
us to learn to ask questions before we just dive into it. I did have a projector once, just like in a training session, just drill deep, and I just felt so violated because I had never given that person permission to move so quickly into my personal life. And so understanding what that feels like gives you the opportunity to show up different.
Yeah. Well, for anybody out there who I've drilled, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I will ask for permission. It's just good. It's just a good practice. It's
Yeah.
good practice to ask if there is enough bandwidth to receive.
I love that. Okay. So there are a couple of other things, like when we look at a chart, and we won't be able to see this on the podcast, but here we can, is like it looks like this. There's like a diagram of a person with a bunch of stuff on it.
It is
So
the diagram of a person, and the diagram shows the chakra centers. And it tells me a lot of different things. It tells me how defined you are and how open you are. And so the definition, the color on the chart, means that there is consistent energy there.
okay.
Okay. So you're not doing this on purpose. It's just energy, but energy is just being broadcasted from these defined centers. And then you have open centers. And those open centers is where we receive energy. And when we're receiving energy, we're also amplifying energy. So we had our person who's emotional. I think it was a 2-4 emotional
Yeah.
manifesting generator. What that means is that the people around you show up as drama queens sometimes
Ooh.
because people who do not have that emotional center on, we're not used to feeling big feelings. Big feelings are scary, big feelings are overwhelming. So yours is not defined. So if you're around someone who is defined, remember you're amplifying that energy. So maybe it's just uncomfortable when you're around a lot of these people. So for me, my daughter is defined and she has like 3 different emotional waves. And so it is a lot for me to take sometimes because she's angry one moment and then she goes to like starts laughing and then all of a sudden she's going through these emotions. And for me, I'm either salty or I'm happy. Like those are my on and off buttons, which
Okay.
do you feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And so I show up as the trauma queen because the emotions are difficult for me to process. And so it takes a lot of awareness to realize that sometimes I'm processing other people's emotions. And I come from a family that is very emotionally defined.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
You're saying I'm sacral.
Sacral. Well, the sacral is easy because we sacral go uh-huh for yes or for no. So sacral is so easy. And it's learning how to access that for yourself and asking yourself, is this something that's going to bring me joy? Do I want to do it? Uh-huh. Or uh-uh. I can wait for later. And when you start to get into your head, when you start going, well, trying to explain your no, trying to explain your yes, you're out of integrity. You need to go back to that sacral. That sacral doesn't lie. If you want to know the truth about anything, ask the sacral being yes or no questions. We cannot lie. Because the moment that yes is coming, we try to validate that yes by giving reasons,
Ah.
or validate the no, right? Like I want to say no, but I'm like uncomfortable saying no to you. So I'm like, well, I can, and you're like, okay, that's a no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're really easy.
Interesting. And that's interesting for him too, since I know him.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's the beautiful thing about the chart. One of the things about there are 2 separate pieces. You have the personality, which is usually black, and then you have the design, which is red. The black part of it shows you where all of the planets were at the exact time of your birth. So when you were born, that's like a little snapshot of where the planets were. On the red side of it is 3 months before you were born. So you
Mm.
weren't even on the planet. It was already taking a snapshot of who you are by design. So when I said I'm a sacral projector, a splenic projector by design, that's what I mean. That by design, 3 months before I was born, I was a splenic projector. Had I stayed in a different course with the planets, I probably would have just been a splenic projector.
Okay.
So the way the planets moved around in 3 months, it defined my sacral, making me a generator.
Okay. So does that say that about me too?
Well, with yours, it's kind of hard to say. I didn't pull that part of it, but you're so defined that if there's you could have been just a different type of projector, because we do have a lot of different types of projectors.
Okay.
I know, just to make it even more confusing. Let me just say that. So, yeah, so I find it very interesting with the design space because that's unconscious energy.
Mhm.
So it's how you show up in the world and you don't see it, but this is how others can observe you.
Okay.
I know, I can see the,
I know. I have so many questions. Let me see, and I'm not remembering all of them. So let me see if I have them on my paper here. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it says projectors require energy and self worth. So I would consider myself to have struggled with both of those things significantly, especially self worth. And that pattern of feeling not worthy comes back to me quite often. So how do I work on that? Because it seems very essential for my.
part of that self-worth piece is learning more about yourself and knowing that you're worthy just by being born. And I think, we take it for granted. Like, we take a lot of things for granted. And it's understanding that we are here for a purpose. And that's what human design gives you. It gives you an opportunity to see that you were created for a purpose that maybe isn't aligned with everyone else's visions. Like, I always wondered, how do you have someone who is all of a sudden a brain surgeon, right? And it is them following their joy, following what they want to do. And it becomes very confusing when we have so many different tongues in our ears, like, telling us what they see in us. And there's so much arrogance in all of us. We always think we know what someone else should be doing. And so we take that power away from the person. I know for me, my parents always said, we see you as a corporate person. And so that's what I did. I went into this corporate space, even more so because I was trying to please my parents instead of doing that for myself. And so when you realize that, there's a lot of work to do to unwind all of these beliefs. So it is really you understanding that you are worthy just by being here.
And that's a challenge.
It is a challenge, but then you look at your incarnation cross, which, it's a whole other level, and we're not going to get too much into it. But you look at your life and soul purpose from this, and you can start to peel the layers of this onion and understanding how that shows up in your life and staying in that place. What is it that you love doing that brings you so much joy? And how can you continue fostering that? Being curious about all these different avenues of getting there.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because I think so. I grew up on Long Island, and my parents were actually fairly open. But what I think I felt a lot of pressure from was my school and my peers and my environment because it was so different from mine, and they seemed to know exactly what they should do.
Isn't that how it works, though? There are people out there who apparently, as from where we are standing, it looks like they know what they want to do, but we don't know that.
Mm.
And yes, there are people who just know what they want and they go after it and they're happily ever after. But are they really happily ever after? Or maybe they just didn't have the courage to look outside of that box. So they live in a box, and it's okay for people to be on their own journey. That is not your journey. Your journey is to discover what you're here to do. And so I can relate to that because I felt very confused, right? I have that 3 in my darn profile number, and that just kept me going around in circles trying to figure out what I wanted. And looking at my life and soul purpose blew my mind away because it's about me changing the narrative of other people's story from a heart-centered way. Like, what would that have meant as a corporate banker? Right? I mean, that and now when I look back, I see, yeah, because I was helping people. Like, that was my favorite thing to do, was to help people go through their banking stuff, especially when you think about how, confusing it is to do offshore stuff. I had to educate and help, and I did it from my heart space. I did it from a place of love because I love helping people unwind things. And so changing the story of the confused person and upset person to a happy person and satisfied because they were with me, like, it's just great. So you get to look at that and be curious about how you can adapt that as you are continuously evolving and changing and shifting.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
It's very powerful. It's
Yeah.
very powerful to do this work and to recognize what opportunities there are to be curious.
Definitely. And what I'm hearing you say is that, even in our past where we were more under the influence of other people in our environment, there were still aspects of our life where we were true to ourselves.
Well,
Yeah.
think about when you're a toddler and you don't care what everyone's saying. You're still going to put mud on your face and you're still going to wear the weird necklace that you found at a yard sale. Like,
Yeah.
you don't care. You're just showing up with whatever makes you happy. And as we start to get older and our parents start conditioning us to the right and the wrong of things, the duality of the world that we live in, it keeps us small. And the more we dig deeper into everyone's unique space, the more we recognize this.
Hmm. Yeah. So I have another question. And this is a question on abundance. And when I talk about my systems, I always link abundance with kind of like alignment with purpose. And so because this is something that I have struggled with, also it's on my Enneagram too, like the tendency to think of the world in a scarcity mindset.
Mm.
And I want to see how that relates to my human design profile.
Well, these beliefs are things that come from generations and generations behind us. And when you start to think about how epigenetics continues to change the way we're looking at the world, which means that everything that's coming through DNA, right? The DNA is changing how we feel. So sometimes we're struggling with something that has nothing to do with the present moment, because in the present moment, you don't need anything, you're fine. But that scarcity mindset takes control. And when you start getting curious about how generations before you lived, there could be something, some trauma that got imprinted in your DNA. And it's such a sense of relief to know that you don't have to carry it because it's not even yours to carry it.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I definitely like my parents and my grandparents, they survived the Chinese Revolution and they had to flee China. And there was a lot of poverty in those two.
Doesn't that just blow your mind away to think, wow, this is really not even something I need to be concerned over because it's just something coming through my DNA?
Okay.
Generational stuff that conditions us to believe that it is us.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at in the present moment, there is no threat. You are safe, but yet your body responds to that because that's the way it's conditioned to respond.
Does human design say anything about that?
Well, when I look at your chart, I can see that you have a defined head and a defined ajna, which is like your third eye. And it's like there's a lot of constant energy there, which doesn't allow you to see a broader perspective. And so you see it your way and you hold on to that. And it's really hard for you to let go of the belief.
Hmm. Okay.
So your job is to allow yourself to understand that, wow, it could be different. It could be something completely opposite to what you're feeling. Maybe it's not that scarcity mindset that you're really worried about. There has to be something underlying it. Maybe the fear of shifting, the fear of changing something.
Yeah, I think so too. It gives me a lot to think about because as I get more honest with myself about what I want to create in this lifetime, I realize how much I require resources to actualize my vision.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that I could be in scarcity mindset and actualize.
No. So good stuff to think about.
Yeah. Tell them about your bundle. Like what's in that report in the
So
audio?
some of us are so good with listening, and some of us are really good at reading. So basically, the bundle includes 60 plus pages of information about you that breaks the report, the chart into pieces for you to be able to digest it, but it's all based on you versus just a general reading or a general explanation of this. And depending on what your type is, what I did is I recorded my voice explaining what it means for you from a nervous system lens. Because what is the chart and what uses the chart for you if you can't access through the nervous system, which is to me the most important part of it.
Can you explain that a little bit with the nervous system?
So, in order for us to shift and change, we need to feel safe.
Yeah.
Right. And we need to have connection. And so, as I am speaking to you in your ear and you're listening to it, you can always rewind, go back, take notes. And so, this opportunity for you to feel that connection, even though we're not face to face, just allowing you to start to understand more. Because when our nervous system is dysregulated, it is very difficult for us to absorb information. It is very difficult for us to shift. And it's very difficult for us to stay in these places. So the brain works very, you know, very oddly. It likes to, in order to rewire our brain, we need to interrupt the patterns that we've been doing over and over for survival. So I did this from a nervous system lens to help you understand your chart a little better, help you understand yourself a little better, and to have a little more self-compassion about how you've shown up and give you the opportunity to do something a little different.
Awesome. So before we go into that question, I have a follow-up question because this is actually something we talk about in my group of Phoenix a lot, and it's something that we struggle with a lot, is how do we discern when it is that we're self-generating fear and lack of safety from when it's actually unsafe? And yeah, how do we create that safety?
Creating safety shows up very different for everyone. I think connection is how we create safety, especially if you're in a container. Then I think the hardest thing to ask for is help. And so you being able to open that up for safety in the sense of support is really important in a cohort, but it's independent. It's an individual kind of thing. It's hard to say what brings you safety and what brings somebody else safety, which I think would be a great question to ask is how does support look for you? Because I know what support looks like for me.
Okay.
But what does support look like for you so that I understand how to be there when
Yeah.
you need me? So I think those are important questions.
Thank you. All right. We just have a comment from Mark.
Yeah, it's always very interesting to learn more about yourself in ways that you already knew. A lot of these things you already know. You just need that permission slip for someone to say yes. And then you say, oh, generator 5-1. Oh, your wife is a reflector.
Whoa.
Ah, I love that. Okay. So, generator, that line 5, we haven't talked about a line
Okay.
5. Line 5 energy is what we call the karmic mirror. So, Mark, I'm sure you have people coming to you so that you can fix everything. You can make everything right,
Oh,
make everything beautiful.
that's right. I know Mark. He does that.
Yes. And so, Mark, you fall in love with other people's potential because they can't see their own potential. And when they come to you for advice and you give them exactly what you need to do, but sometimes people don't follow directions, weird, and they get upset and they say it's you, like it's you, you're the problem and you're not the problem. And so what happens is that we continue this line 5 energy continues to hear that you're wrong, that you're wrong, that you're wrong, that you're wrong, or that you didn't do it the way they wanted it to. And it plays small. So that line 5 has a lot of different challenges, but so much beauty because you can see the potential in the world. Your job is to not play small. Your job is to go do whatever it is that you want to do without paying attention to, the people around you that didn't pay for their ticket, right? Because the people who
Woo.
don't pay for the ticket are the ones who are the loudest.
Oh, uh, Mark actually his mission is to heal people naturally from cancer.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there you go. Like, really, that is a wow, amazing. That is amazing. But that is my advice to you is to not listen to the people around you who say that you are wrong, because innately you know things and you can see the potential in things. And that line one, it's a great combination because you're going down rabbit holes, you're doing your research. It's not like you are sharing something that you have not researched your way through.
Yeah, definitely.
And then with your wife being a reflector, you have a lot of energy and you probably blow her fuse. And so sometimes allowing her to fall asleep before you come into the room may be very helpful to let her stay asleep, because your energy, it's not you personally, it's just your energy will keep her awake. That's a lot of energy for a reflector, a lot of sensitivity. I haven't even really done much with reflectors because they're 1% of the population. They're very unique. But, you know, having her rest a lot is very essential. But understanding the astrology transits, like what is happening in the cosmos, because she's very in tune with the lunar cycle and the cosmos, and she's not here to make decisions on the fly. Unfortunately, she's here to really take time because she follows the lunar cycle. It's about 28 days before she can make a solid decision. And I don't know if that's something you've experienced with her, but it's having a little patience so that she can make the big decisions, right? Not the easy, mundane decisions. That's easy, but the big decisions, buying a car, buying a house, having a baby, like all of these different things, she has to be in a good place. If she's making decisions too quickly, the disappointment comes in.
Wow.
I know, so
Thank
much to
you.
learn, huh?
There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to dig into. So hopefully you guys resonate with all of this. I would love to hear your thoughts on it too. Leave us a comment. I'm gonna post up. Yeah, that is my wife for sure. She is here smiling. Yay!
Well, please reach out if you have more questions, if you want to know a little bit more about all of this. It is really interesting how when you put two charts together, you can see how we call them electromagnetic channels, like why we're attracted to our partners and what that looks like in the chart. Because then what you end up having is a combined chart with your stuff and her stuff. Because just like you have your profile number, the 2 and the 4, she has a profile number. And you can see how you guys jive and what makes it so much easier for you. So like my partner is a manifesting generator, and manifesting generators have a lot of busy energy. And so in the mornings, I'm not a very good morning person. So it would be, closing things, opening things, and a lot of noise. And I always thought, oh my God, can you like be quiet? And he would say, I was trying to be quiet. I was thinking, no, you were not. And just learning more about the manifesting generator, that he was right. He was trying to be quiet. It just shows up different for everybody. And he's here to create shortcuts to life. So when you're creating shortcuts to life, you're fast. You miss things. But it's interesting because, he always shares, I got really excited doing this project and I missed a few steps. And it's like, yeah, yeah. So it is learning to slow down. I have a client who is a manifesting generator, and I'm been working with the slowdown. And I said, what do you notice? And she says, I don't get hurt. I don't drop things. And I thought, oh gosh, this is so interesting, because the challenge for the manifesting generator is to slow down because the excitement and the energy is real.
Oh. Do you do like couple readings or anything
I
like that?
do couple
Okay.
readings. I do family readings up to 4 or 5 people where I combine all the chart because it's just very different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it's
would be
really
super helpful,
it is
actually.
it is amazing. It is
Yeah.
amazing. I am actually launching a parenting 6-week course this summer, and I did it over the summer because that's when there's a lot of pause in so many different ways. And so if you're around and you're and you want to dive into that, that would be a great opportunity to learn more about yourself and how you affect your children. Because the more we work on ourselves, the more we give our children the opportunity to experience joy and life from a completely different perspective that sometimes we're not going to be able to resonate with, because they get to grow in the way that we would have wanted to grow. We get to give that gift to them. I don't relate to my daughter at all sometimes. And I think that's the gift. The gift is that I don't relate, because she's doing life very different, and there's no right or wrong. It's different.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, good to know. And then if any of you out there would be interested in having a workshop shop with Akary, let us know, because then I can make it happen and we can have more of like a group chat.
Yeah.
All bring our charts and like dive deep into what we're seeing for ourselves.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can definitely go basic and, start to peel the layer of the basic onion so that we can really understand, and then we can actually have a discussion about it, which is so valuable.
Okay. Well, cool. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for it being out in the open where we can actually enjoy being in nature and not in our offices.
Absolutely. And thank you all for joining us.
Hey listeners, if you're enjoying the stories and insights from the Ashes, why not stay connected with our community? Join my mailing list for bi-weekly updates on upcoming events, wellness tips, fun tidbits, and of course, new podcast episodes. I promise no spam, just valuable content to help you live your best life. Head over to www.intrepidwellness.life and sign up today. Don't miss out, and let's keep the conversation going.